that's an inspiration in a lot of ways. It just shows you can do it really quickly if you just do it the right way. And Coach Jenkins and our men's indoor team winning a conference title. So a lot of firsts, a lot of really cool things happening. And as a department, certainly as a university, some exciting stuff. For us, first practice of 15, man, a bunch of new faces, which is really cool to see. There's like a really cool energy. And for us, the challenge, I told our guys a year ago, there was no expectations of any sort, and felt like all we worried about was us and our process. Now the challenge is there are actually expectations, and the challenge to us is still to just worry about us and our process. So there's a really cool energy, really excited about the new hires, the new coaches. Man, just a really renewed energy. I love practice. I love spring ball. I woke up this morning with no alarm, and I was just geeked to get in here and get on the field with our players. Cliche maybe a little bit, but it felt like, man, all right, now we actually get to go practice amongst all the craziness going on. We actually get to coach football. So that was really fun. That's the part I enjoy best. And it was really exciting. Some really, really exciting new guys to add to what I thought was a really good finish for us. So really positive energy, a really positive vibe, and ready to go. We got 14 more to go. Questions?
When you think back a year ago, walking into this campus and taking over this program to what it is now, what has stood out to you about day one here opposed to day one last year?
Yeah, I think establishing a foundation of what we actually are. I think a year ago today it was like so much question from the players to the coaches, from the coaches to the players, not just from a personnel standpoint, but are these guys really who they say they are? Are the coaches really here for us to help us? Are the coaches really here and care about the players? Are the players really bought in? Is there any sort of trust factor amongst the team? There was just so many question marks. I feel like we spent this offseason building leadership, building trust in a lot of different ways, some really creative ways, but felt like we went out there and guys, one, knew their roles a little bit more, so were defined. But I think there's no question at this point of, man, these coaches are here to help us. They're here for the right reasons. The guys that have stayed and are here, the guys that we've recruited, they're here with the mission of helping us get to where we want to go. I think there's that wall, that barrier is down, and the amount of coaching and the amount of being able to get coached is through the roof. And you're able to now coach detail. I think a year ago, really the entire year, you felt like you were behind the chains in everything. You felt like you were just putting fires out schematically. You installed, but you couldn't really get to the detail of it because you were trying to install in all three phases. I feel like now we could dial it back and coach the heck out of detail. You look at what our season was, you now can pinpoint, man, those are our issues, whether it's situational football, third down, red zone, 2-minute drills. You can actually coach the intricate details of how you win football games, where a year ago, it's like, man, can we line up and get bodies on bodies and like very elementary. You hope in year two, which is where we are right now, that you're able to coach the detail, and so the detail is what gets us over whatever hump we were at.
What about the roster situation? What's kind of your assessment of where you are as a roster compared to what you were a year ago?
Yeah, I feel like we've got more depth across the board. One, you kind of have a feel for at least guys that played a year ago. You know what they are in terms of at a base level. This offseason, you were able to actually develop skill, kind of like the detail part schematically. You were able to develop skill rather than just try to get guys in shape. You got to remember, when we got here a year ago, they had been off for 7-8 weeks. So when we started in January a year ago, you were just trying to get guys to make it to spring healthy, let alone be able to actually compete. Now we really only had 2.5 weeks off, and we came in and we're actually able to focus on fine detail of how we lift, how we run, all of the intricacies of it. So you feel naturally you got more depth. if we can stay healthy, that's the word. You feel like you could play a lot more guys. I feel like we attacked the issue areas for us in a really big way. I felt like receiver, we were such a grab bag of who was healthy, who was not. I feel like we've got depth there. We were able to build with the younger guys getting older and the guys we brought in. Running back, I feel that way. Quarterback, I certainly feel that way. At running back, I talked about the running backs. Tight end, feel like now Gerard Adimo's a year older, and now we've got Jonathan Eccles here. You feel a little bit more like you've got more depth. And then defensively in the secondary, I feel like we spent the whole last 2 months recruiting the back end. Man, there's depth, there's real competition at corner, there's real competition at safety. At linebacker, you feel like there's legitimate competition. You got Jamie Petway here so late last year. He didn't really have a chance to compete like you'd wanted him to, so you feel like you've got competition there. And then on the D-line, who we brought in, these young guys are like closer to ready-made than what they certainly were a year ago, and then the guys built on what they did a year ago. Like, you feel like you've got depth there. Now, we got to develop it. They've got to continue to get better, but you feel that way. Even at the specialist spot, you brought in a kicker to go compete now. You feel like you've got depth there, and so we'll see. But you feel like you've got depth, and you feel like you've got more options of who to put out there.
Byron Brown coming off of obviously a successful season, what do you want him to focus on this spring?
I think Byram is his own biggest critic. He spent more time here in January and February than most. He was like we joke, it's Coach Brown now. He's literally here all day, every day after he goes to class. But he's as critical of himself as anybody, which just makes him super easy to coach. I think of all the things he did really well, he'll tell you, man, the 11 interceptions, I got to clean up. Of all the things he did well, the fumbles, I got to clean up. The third down issues that I feel like hindered us through a majority of the year, he feels like are all on him. And they're not, but as a quarterback, as a leader, you take that. So I think there's like this confidence about him right now because he's actually prepared the right way. His process is right. And it's amazing to see what kind of focus he comes in with, like how he is in meetings to how he is out here. Again, I think the unknowing is what creates anxiety in young people. I think creates anxiety in old people too. But there's no anxiety anymore because I know what's coming. I know what practice is going to look like. I know what scheme we're running. And I think we could take another step. Like a year ago, we were at whatever level of the offense we were at, 100, call it. I feel like in his mind, he's like, all right, what's the answer to that? What's the answer to that? How do we get to a 300-400 level in what we do offensively? And him knowing what's going on allows us to do that. So it's really cool. His mindset's really cool. His confidence back there is really cool. It's calming as a coach. And really Bryce in the same regard. And Izzy has taken a huge step. Man, Marcellus Tate, I thought, had an incredible winter, and like that whole room. But again, you got a guy that shows you what it's like and what sets the example. It's easy to then just say, be like that guy and keep it moving.
Alex, you had among the returning players, a lot of them, of course, never tasted any success at all until last year. They got a winning season, a bowl win. Do you sense that hunger growing through the winter and into spring ball? They're hungry for a lot more of those guys?
Yeah, you do. But again, like I said at the beginning, the biggest thing I'm guarded against is you're happy there's expectations, and you're happy there's expectations within the program, but you're guarded against worrying about anything beyond tomorrow. And that's what I just told these guys when we got off the field. Like, man, that was sloppy in some ways. It was super competitive in some ways. Awesome. Clean it up, allow yourself to get coached, and let's move on to tomorrow. I'm so guarded of listening to anything outside. I know that's not what you asked, but are they hungry? Heck yeah, they're hungry. Like I pointed out, and probably too much information, but as I see what's out there on social media in terms of the outside expectations, right? I told them the exact truth, man. Like we went to Birmingham, Alabama and got blown out. We played right here. FAU came in here, blew us out. Like we went to UTSA on national TV on a Friday night. We weren't ready for that moment. So if you need something to keep you grounded, you need something to keep you hungry. Like if you need something to wake you up in the morning and say, man, like we got a lot of work to do, that's it. And I don't mean to drive the culture in a negative way in that regard, but man, like that's what keeps me up at night. Everybody else can talk about expectations, can talk about positivity. Like I'm going to coach in a positive way, I'm going to interact in a positive way, but if those games don't show you we got a long way to go, then we're jacked up. And so yes, as soon as I feel like, man, like it goes from this confidence and hunger to get better to, man, like we're good, that's where I get really guarded.
How important is it for you to come out of spring with a solid number 2 quarterback? This is my guy.
I think really important to have at least a really good idea, you know, and if you feel like you've got a 3, I think the old adage of, man, if you got 3 quarterbacks, you probably don't have 1, I don't think is really true. I think if you can have a 2 and a 3, you can certainly feel comfortable. I think that's probably the hardest thing to do in modern day college football is to have a real 2 and a real 3. But those guys are going to continue to compete, and man, I sure hope so. But I think critically important because it can't all stop if, God forbid, something happens to your starter.
You talk about how the expectations have changed over the last year. What are your expectations for year 2?
This is going to sound like a really corny coach answer to just be the best version of us. Whatever we are, I want to maximize it. You know, I want to leave spring and make sure we've got no questions about our roster in terms of needs or wants, and then go be the best version of us. Don't beat ourselves. Continue to strive to win in the margins, which we're always going to have to do, meaning situational football-wise, and be really detailed in what we do. Be detailed in our situational football, be detailed in how we run the ball, how we throw the ball, how we tackle, all of those things, be really, really detailed. And then, again, like I've said a million times, if we can be detailed in our process, if we can have our process right, we'll be able to maximize what we are.
You talked about the games that keep up at night. What else? When you examine those, is it more weren't ready for the moment? Is it more this part of our team we got to get a lot better in? How do you analyze, like how do you erase those things?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of those, of all of that. I think from a true tactical standpoint, man, we had to get much, much, much better at throwing the football, especially against certain looks where guys couldn't run wide open all over the place. We got to get technically way better. We've got to be able to cover better. From a tactical standpoint, we had to get better back there. From a schematic standpoint, from a technical standpoint, we need to get older really, really quick, and I feel like that's what we tried to do. But I think it was a combination of all of it. I think we weren't ready for the moment. We were coming off of wins. Again, it's this, I feel like I spent the first 8 months of my tenure trying to give them the tools to create real confidence, and then you have like, you border the line of confidence and arrogance. And especially if you're in a moment where you've never been, I think it's hard to kind of go through the day to day where you're like, man, like look at us, like look at what we're doing, and people are saying, man, like these guys got a shot to be pretty good. And every time that's ever happened to me in life, I've got smacked right in the face. So as much coaches, your process never changes, but I think young people, it changes, and their approach changes. So I think it's a combination of all that, us technically and tactically as a staff, and then the players from a mindset. That's why I always talk about process. Like if it's all the same every week, then it shouldn't matter who you're playing, and that's probably the hardest thing to do.
You got a good sense of the wave of the spirit that's been rising. Started with the football program, having a winning season, winning the ball game, out of the basketball, and you mentioned track. I mean, what's campus been like for you as you walk around?
Yeah, so I don't walk around campus a whole lot. I probably should. I'll do that at some point. But I leave it to Amir to go with the donuts and the coffee, although he's raised the standard there for everybody. But I think there's a real energy, right? And shoot, not long we'll be playing right here. And so there's like this really authentic, cool energy. I've been to the last couple of basketball games. Man, like that's what college basketball is, man. A packed house and student sections going crazy and people genuinely excited. That's what college football should be, and is becoming that here. I think there's just this standard that's been raised and set by Michael Kelly and the administration. Like I know the quote of this ain't the old South Florida anymore. Like, there's a standard here. You're in Tampa. You're at a top 40 public school in the country. You're in 11th best media market in the country. Like, you're at a big time school. Let's act that way. And that's what they've done, is they've given us the resources to go do it. Now we got to go do it. And so I think just the standard has been raised here, and in every imaginable way, from, like, you named all the sports, but our volleyball team made a big run. Like the standard's set. Like, there's no reason why you shouldn't win here. You've got everything you could ever need. Same reason I took the job here, because I saw all of those things. I'm like, give me the reason why we can't do it here. And I think we've got a bunch of coaches now that are that way, and there's a student population that's, like, excited about sports again, and it's really cool. That's what college sports is. And if that don't get you, like, that gets me giddy and excited, like playing a Tuesday night game here tonight. It's gonna be rocking. Like, it'll be awesome. That's what it should be.
One of your staff additions, Larry Scott, kind of neat that he connected dots from now back to day one of the program, basically, with his father. So you could talk about him and what he's going to bring to the staff.
Yeah, Larry, we lost a young man, and Kyrie Hawkins got a full-time D-line job at the University of Delaware, and we wanted somebody that could help with the outside linebackers, with the defensive line from an analyst standpoint. And Coach Patrick, Larry GA'd for Coach Patrick at NC State, and had been a full-time coach here now for 3 years. And KP recommended him, and I got on the phone with Larry. There was, like, this cool energy. He's like, Coach, I remember running around that facility when my dad was back there coaching. He's like, I remember the smell. It was, like, kind of odd, but I remember that. And so his energy on the phone, his energy was really, I don't know his dad, but I know obviously played here, came back and coached here. Larry's got this infectious personality. He's really, really, like, really fun to be around the office. He's really professional, really thorough. Really excited to have him as an addition. I love bringing in new young coaches, because there's, like, this renewed energy. They're eager to learn, not set in their ways, and he's one of those guys. He's been a GA, been a full-time coach now, and for him to kind of take a step back, come back to a place that's obviously super special to his family, but he's a pro. He's really, really solid.
Coach, for Bryce Archie, you're kind of splitting those coaching duties with Coach Mold with baseball. Just what's that experience been like for him, for you coaching him, and just, like, how's that balance work out?
Yeah, well, Bryce and I go so far back to McEachern for him as a junior. And I remember baseball always being a part of his recruiting back to, 2 spots ago. This is how small of a world college football is. And then when he made a decision to come here, baseball was a part of the conversation. For him, football had always been first, but baseball was always in the conversation. He was throwing 96 in high school. Like, I knew that was real for him. And so we kind of made an agreement that, hey, your first spring, it's going to be football, and we'll figure out the rest later. Now, when it got out that Bryce was coming here, Billy was the first person down in my office too. Like, man, like don't be greedy with this guy here. And so after the season, we sat back down, talked about baseball potentially being an option. He had to go make the team. He had to go try out because they had a relatively full roster already. So he tried out. And I think they're really comfortable with where he could be and what he could be. And it went originally from, man, I don't know if he'll be ready to go, to, heck, this kid could maybe be our closer. And we went opening night. Obviously, he didn't play. And then he got in right as we were playing FAU right here at home. He went in against Marist. There you go. Went in against Marist on that Sunday. Got a chance to play, and then Friday night, I was at a clinic in Orlando, and I get a text from, like, 6 different people. Bryce is on the mound. Well, it's bottom of the 9th, tied 2-2 game in Orlando against an undefeated team. I'm like, whoa, what a moment for your second time of college baseball. So he just practiced. He's getting on in a van and heading up to Jacksonville to be available tonight and tomorrow. So really more than anything, it's the plan for his academics to be able to handle that. The one thing he's said from the beginning, and Billy's been awesome, is he's not going to miss practice. So there's a couple of series, one at Charlotte, one at Memphis, that we got to just work through his availability for them and him being able to practice. But gosh, if he can help them win games, it certainly would be a huge deal. And he's got a cool excitement about him now. I think like every little kid growing up playing baseball, he's excited to get out on the mound. But I turned that game on ESPN Plus, and it's like, whoa, this dude's got. It's like that's a moment now. I've never been on a mound, but I can imagine it's probably not the easiest thing. So I think it can only help his confidence and help him continue to grow. That was a long-winded answer, I know, but I'm so proud of him. I think how cool is that? We got him. We got Jaquan Smith is running track. He ran the 60 for the men's indoor track team. Didn't qualify for the finals, but literally his first time running track in 2 years. So pretty exciting. If we can recruit guys that can run at this level, we got a shot to run by some people next fall.
Coach, one of the people that you added onto your staff will be one of the people that you added onto your staff this year, DeMarcus Van Dyke. What's your relationship like with him? What do you kind of see him bringing to the cornerback position?
Yeah, DVD. So I tried to hire DVD a year ago, and it didn't work. And so then I waited a year, and then he finally agreed to come. I've didn't know DVD personally. I had just always heard there's this really good young coach from South Florida. I remember DVD as a player. I remember him playing at Miami. I remember him running his 40 at the combine. That was like a big story for a long time. And then I had a chance to meet him a year ago, and he's got this infectious personality and this eagerness to coach and give back. And like I said, I tried a year ago, didn't work, and then tried it again here in December, and he literally was like, man, coach, I jacked it up. I want to be with you. I want to be there. And that's the cool part about our profession is you continue to maintain relationships. He's been awesome. He's again, young, eager, hungry. What he did in recruiting in January to close out, we got more corners at the end there than, and I did say, man, any corner that could play, I'll take him. And so he took that literally. And he's been phenomenal, not just with the corners, but the whole back end and just the energy he brings to that. It's like this youthful energy that I'm attracted to that he had a year ago that he still has now. He's out there in cleats, talking smack and running around. I think he's got a chance to be a star in this profession. Just sharp, calculated, real relationship-driven human being, and got an incredible family. He's got his son's one top 8th grade DBs in the entire country, one of the fastest cats in the country. So we'll be recruiting him here. I told him he ain't gonna end up down in Miami. So we're so excited about him. So excited about Micah James coaching our running backs now. It was awesome to see Jack Taylor with the tight ends today. Those additions, as you sat back after the season, evaluated where I felt like gaps were, I feel like we made the right decision to make some changes, improve who we are, what we're about, how we're teaching, how we're recruiting, all of it. But DVD in particular, man, he's been here for 2 months, and I feel like everybody loves DVD. He's got this smile. He's so geeked up to be here. Man, awesome. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Great to see everybody. Welcome back, brother.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
You in? How did you know?
Tackle Rashad Sheen.
How y'all doing?
Question for Rashad.